Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We're learning Mishnah Yoma, Perek Beis, Chapter 2, Mishnah Aleph, Mishnah 1. Barishain, originally, Kol mi sheretz litroim es hamizbeach, whoever wanted to separate the ash from the altar, Torah would do so. We're talking about now, as we have mentioned yesterday, the mitzvah of Trumas Hadeshin, the mitzvah of separating the ash from the altar. Every day, there was a certain amount of ash that was separated from the altar, brought down from the altar and placed on the eastern side of it, on the ground. Now, we know that the Kohanim who did the avodah, the service in the Beis Hamikdash, they're divided up into 24 groups. Mishmaris, that were called, watches. Mm-hmm. Each watch would come, they would all, and these 24 would serve, they'd switch off per week, a different mishmar per week. The mishmar, the group for that week, had what's called Beis Av, families, right? The mishmar, each mishmar was divided up into families, and each family would have their day of doing the service. So now you have this family that's there to do the service in the Beis Hamikdash, and the first thing that was done was the separating of the ash, which was done when it was still nighttime. So who got to do it? So the Mishnah says whoever wanted to did it, which means first come, first serve. Whoever stepped forth and said he wants to do Trumas Hadeshin, the first one to do that would be the one to get it. Ubizman Shem Reuben. Now, what happened if there were a lot of people who wanted to do it? There was a number of Kohanim who wanted to do it. How did they decide to do it? Now, as we're going to see, that when it came to other parts of the avoda of the service, there was a lot. There was, call it a lottery system. You know, there was a lottery system. There's a way that they did it, and we're gonna see that system very soon. But when it came to Trumas Hadeshin, again, originally, because, you know, things eventually had to change a little bit when it came to the Trumas Hadeshin, but in the original setup, so when it came to doing the Trumas Hadeshin, you didn't have to do a lottery system. You know why? Because it was the night, and a lot of Kohanim were still sleeping. So there really usually wasn't a lot of people going for the Trumas Hadeshin because it was done while it was still night. All right. So the first way was whoever stepped forth first, whoever claimed it first, got it. If there are more than one person who was claiming it, so what did they do? Again, they didn't do the lottery system that we're going to see soon. But rather, it was like this: it was Man Shem Reuben, and when there are many of them who wanted to do it, Ratzin and V'Eilim Bakevesh, they would race up the ramp. But whoever got within 4 cubits of the top first, he was the winner. So basically, they all start at the bottom of the kevesh, right? And they raced up, and whoever got within, again, you have to reach the top first. And if you got within 4 cubits of the top, you're the winner. Okay, that's how they did it. And 32 cubits, 64 feet. You know, it's a bit of a dash. Okay, not that much, but a dash, a quick one. All right, now, vim hayu shneim shavin. Let's say there was a tie. Right, 2 people came in together. So now already they already have to go to the system, to the lottery system. How was that? The one in charge, meaning there was somebody in charge of making sure that, you know, everything got done. There had to be somebody on top of it to make sure it got done. So the person in charge said to each one of the Kohanim there, meaning the two people who ran to the top, it's not between them. They didn't flip a coin. They didn't flip a coin. Okay, they had a specific way of how they chose. And the way that they chose couldn't work with 2 people. You have to have more. So if you had, let's say you had, 2 people who reached the top together. So now it's not like choosing between the 2. Now it goes back to the whole group. And we'll see why soon. The one in charge said, stick out your finger. Which means each of the Kohanim of that family, or anybody was there rather, of the family, they would get into a circle and they would stick out a finger. And the person in charge would call out a number, of course, a lot more than the number of people there. And he would decide where the number is going to start from. Right? Tanura says he took off that person's hat, right? And it started from him, right? And they counted the fingers until they reached that number, 162, right? And whoever the counting ended by, he was the winner. He got it. Now, if that was a system, you couldn't do that between 2 people, right? because the odd number would land up by the first guy. The even number would end up by the second guy. So if this and they, like I said, didn't flip a coin, right? They did it this way, and therefore once there's two winners when it came to the race up the ramp, then already they had to go to the system of the lottery, which was now done amongst whoever was there and whoever wanted to participate. Okay, and that's what they did. It now they're counting the fingers, right? Why have to count the fingers? Why not count the people?
Because you don't count.
Because you don't count people, right? We don't count people. So therefore, being that we don't count people, they stick out the finger and the fingers were counted. Umahin Reitzian. Okay, how many fingers did they put out? Answer is simply achas one. Put out two. That's we're not going to put out two. You put out three. You have to put out the same number. Achas one, oishtayim or two. Two was for a person who, let's say, wasn't well enough to only put out one finger without the other finger coming up. Some people can't just stick out one finger. The other finger comes along. So if you're that kind of person, you put both fingers together and they're counted as one. So they put out one or two fingers. The ein maitzian aguda b'mikdash. However, no sticking out your thumb. Thumbs could not be stuck out. Why is that? Because the thing is that when you're dealing with your thumb, you can spread out your thumb very far. So let's say you have a Kohen, right? He's watching the number. It's getting towards the end, right? And he sees that it's going to go to his friend next to him. He's going to be second to last. So you know what he's going to do? He's going to put out, let's say he'll put out his pinky, and he'll stick out his thumb very far, and it may appear like two people, like two different people's fingers, and that's how he'll get it. Therefore, the rule was no sticking out your thumb. You can stick out any other finger, right? But no sticking out your thumb. So make sure that doesn't happen. Now, any other finger, you can't spread it as far as the thumb. That's the point. Any other finger, you just can't spread it as far to really make it look like it's two people's fingers. But the thumb, you are able to extend it out to be significantly reasonably far from the other finger, that it could look like two people's fingers, and therefore we wanted to avoid any kind of problem like that. And therefore, you can stick out any finger, but not the thumb. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Now, tomorrow we will see why